Hello. I haven't used this binaural version in such a long time, so I think it might be a bit difficult for me tonight. はい、夢が叶うまで人生のページをシェアで作るMasayume Shioriです。Bookmarking life's page until my dreams come true. I'm Shiori Masayume. 今日も頑張れOkay, so I hope the mic works at the side. Does it work? Hello? Does it work? I'm sure it works. Hello Shun. Hello Sub Twilight. Welcome to the stream. Tonight we'll be reading some Inazuma books. The last time I did an ASMR stream, we read some Liyue books and some Mondstadt books. So, today we want to read some Inazuma books. Or more like, I wanted to read this, the book written by Xingqiu. And then after that we'll read some Inazuma books. It's working. Okay, good. That's good. Wow! Hello, welcome to the stream, Wonderhoy Toma. Wow! Okay, yes. So today, we will start with A Legend of Sword. A Legend of Sword. It's quite long, so I hope you guys are prepared. Bring some snacks. For some reason, the in-game music stopped halfway. I don't know why it stopped, but I think it's gonna start back up soon. Okay. Hi. So I'll start. The story is A Legend of Sword. Even if Emperor Shi's ambitions are realized, how will anybody benefit from it? Minister of Defense Francis started out of the window into space as the galaxies and stars shone gently upon her face, their pale white glow flowing softly and slowly down each strand of her hair. She couldn't help but think back to the first time she looked out at this ocean of stars through this very window, but she no longer remembered the sense of awe she felt back then. Even her homeland, now hundreds of light years away, had long since become faded and distorted in her memories whenever they surfaced in her dreams. Forgive me for speaking out of place, Your Highness, but this war has been dragging on far too long. We've battled through countless constellations, wiped out tens of millions of lives in all sorts of devious ways, and made ourselves viceroys and envoys of every obscure constellation we came across, all in an effort to make Emperor Shi's dreams a reality. But what has his grand vision brought us? One misfortune after another, and an ever-growing number of enemies. They're in every corner of the galaxy now. It's just a matter of time before they swallow us up. My brother's vision is for an empire that will rule for all eternity, one there is no fear and where people do not lack for anything. The fate of the many will no longer be dictated by the few. No one will enjoy a higher status than anybody else, and even incompetence will no longer be seen as a crime. And so it is inevitable that those who cannot comprehend this grand vision are doomed to be swept aside. This is their fate. Princess Geppetta shook her head and spoke with a gentle yet cold tone. It seemed as if the intergalactic anti-guerrilla war had robbed her of more than just one of her eyes and one of her arms, because when Francis looked at her, She did not see the joyful young woman she once knew. I trust in brother's decision. He would not act out of mere self-interest. So please, even though it is you, don't say such things again in the future. Don't speak words that sow doubt. Hello, welcome to the stream. Hex Rome. Good morning to you. And so that was Volume 1, A Legend of Sword. Continuing to Volume 2. Surely, even an armada consisting entirely of Azida-class warships would have been a tough job, making a dent in a defense as watertight as this one. Admiral Gelderfried, overconfidence in the greatest technological marvel of the Empire, meant that she was completely unaware that the rebels were, at the very moment, closing in on the fatal weakness of their base. The mighty star fortress, Anusharan, designed personally by Princess Geppetta and named by Emperor Shi, was now nothing more than a fragile egg before the rebel fleet. A mother hen was away from the nest. Bastinu deftly navigated the lark's clipper through the intricate and winding ventilation system, weaving between jets of poisonous gas and elemental clouds shooting from the holes in the walls. While trying to shake the automatic mechanical sentries on his tail, his eyes and ears filled with blood, and the scene before him merged into a continuous blur of color and light as the clipper shot ahead at a breathtaking speed. Now's my chance, so thought Bastino to himself, as the propulsion system energy core came gradually into view. It's time, so thought the Admiral Gelderfried to herself, as she gazed at the flashing sphere of light in the planet's orbit. Then she gave the order to launch an indiscriminate assault on the planet. Then Bastino launched a fatal attack on the fortress core. Oh, what I would give to see the look on Princess Geppetta's face right now. So thought both to themselves, separately but identically, in that brief moment. Wow. Volume 2 has a lot of action scenes. Hello, welcome to the stream. Hey, welcome. Hey. Continuing to Volume 3. I can't believe Xingqiu thought of all of this. You know, like, this is like an intergalactic story while he's like Downey Liwei. How does he think about space? That's amazing. 10 years later, no, 10 years earlier, 25 light years away, with the nation under the rule of the Suruga shogunate, cries of anguish filled the streets as the people suffered bitterly. At the time, the Suruga shogunate was led by Seitai shogun Imagawa Ujizane. 4 years prior, after finally beheading Demon King Danjochu, the Tai shogun's own reign of terror began. It was in this time and place that our free and unrestrained swordmaster wandered the land. His name was Bichu Kyubei, and he was known to the people as Shinkuro, the vigilante. Bichu Kyubei was not a ronin as such. It is said that he was once the most trusted strategist for His Excellency, the Tai shogun, until one day he was framed by a rival. Given the shogun's paranoid nature, this left him with no choice but to flee the shogunate and escape into the wilderness. Today, Shinkuro was standing on a mountainside gazing into the distance. But what was the object of his gaze? Was it the vast expanse of the open fields? No. Was it the mountain range in the distance? No. Was it the road stretching out ahead of him? Yes. Although that's not the full story. So what was the object of Shinkuro's gaze exactly? The farmers who had paid the swordsman in rice for his services cowered in fear too. It seems that only the silent swordman himself knew the answer to this question. Wow! So we finally meet another protagonist. This finally the Legend of Sword. This character Shinkuro. It sounds like an anime. Yeah, it does. Volume 4. Is this the second last volume? Konbanwa, welcome to the stream. Kazuto Stories, welcome. Hi. では続いて Volume 4. The fall is here. The season of harvest is almost upon us. The one speaking was Saito Onisa. Ninjas are dangerous individuals, experts in self-preservation and in avoiding danger. In times of war and upheaval, they work as mercenaries for the daimyo. They are born in war and they draw in their strength from the powerful masters they work for. Such is the path of the ninja. But it's also the path of the ninja to become displaced and disillusioned at the end of war, or to meet their ruin as soon as they lose their powerful backing. So when the Imagawa Tai shogun finally united the country, the ninjas became like hunting dogs that had outlived their purpose. Most were either executed or drafted into the shogun's army, but some got away, disappeared into the wilderness, and turned to a life of banditry. That is precisely Saito Onisa's story. There is no rush. Let's wait for the villagers to finish harvesting the grain for us. The person speaking this time was called Yonemata Tasuke. Bandits are either samurai who have grown weary of the warrior's way, or farmers fighting to stay alive. They too are born in war. They draw their strength from cunning, and this emboldens them to run amok across the land. But when the war ends and peace is restored, the source of their power evaporates. Like mayflies, they disappear as quickly as they came. Yonemata Tasuke was born into an ordinary farming family, only turning to banditry in his 40s. Yet, despite his age, he took it with great aplomb and quickly established himself as a ringleader. The most terrible of all bandits are those who have themselves suffered terribly under an oppressive hand. Then we burn everything, leave no survivors. His was the voice of an age of upheaval. Wow. And we are introduced with more characters that will probably be fighting in the 5th volume, maybe? The final volume. The terrain of Asada village was shaped like a crescent moon. Shinkuro had noticed this the very first time he set foot in the marshland. If you could organize enough villagers to lie in the ambush on the mountain ridge, shielding themselves with the terrain and attacking downwards from the high ground, defeating the enemy would be easy, especially since the bandits would be weary from their journey. Furthermore, the villagers outnumbered the bandits, so surrounding them on all sides would not be difficult to pull off. But the biggest obstacle to this plan was the villagers themselves. A small group of easy targets would be needed as bait to lure the bandits into the valley. But after enduring an age of despotic rule, only to continue to suffer under tyrannical and extortionate taxation practices of the present shogunate, the mentality of individual self-preservation was deeply ingrained. How was he going to convince anybody to volunteer to be the bait and sacrifice themselves for everyone else's benefit? There was one other problem too. In wartime, a samurai army finding themselves in this situation would be certain to use fire to make their ambush more effective. The wind from the mountain would make the fire spread quickly, trapping the enemy in the valley and dealing them a devastating blow. But this was a farming community, seeking to keep their land and village safe. There was nothing he could say to convince them that setting their houses and grain reserves on fire was anything close a good idea. This was completely understandable, of course, but the fact was that even worse fate would await them should they fail to take the bandits down. Shinkuro silently sat down and continued to ponder the conundrum. That's the last one. That's it. That's the last of A Legend of Sword. Oh, now I understand why the people of Inazuma want a second book. I want a second book as well. I want to know what happens. What happened to Shinkuro? Like, and this is like the backstory because this is like 10 years earlier, 25 light years away. Like, what happens in space? I want to know what happened to Admiral Jeffrides, the cliffhanger. I hate this so much. Oh my gosh. I can't stop thinking about this story. And this is like a backstory. We need to know what happens in the future. Oh my goodness. I hate this. Okay, so the next we will read New Chronicles of the Six Kitsune. I think this is like a short book. I don't know. Seems kind of short. Hey, Volume 1, New Chronicles of the Six Kitsune. Prologue. Stories relating to memory always seem to have to do with those moments where you gain something and lose it straight away. If you're wondering how I came to write about it, it's hardly the most exciting story. That night, I was drinking and killing time at the Uyu restaurant when I happened to run into an old friend that I hadn't seen in forever. I don't know when she arrived, but at some point I suddenly noticed her sitting there in one of the booths. My now, who could this be? Sitting there in such a good mood, yet drinking all alone. Since she was asking, I thought I might as well mutter something in response. The best liquor comes at the highest price, and sometimes that price is waiting alone. Puff, puff. I've definitely heard that one before. Still as boring as ever, I see. There's a tapping sound. There's a tapping sound. Is it the background sound? Ta 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 ta. Tapping sound. Is something hitting my desk? There's nothing hitting my desk. There's nothing hitting my desk though. Oh my gosh. There's a ghost. A ghost is tapping my table. There's nothing tapping my table. Thus remarked the chief editor as she stood there with a liquor cup in hand, looking very enthusiastic about the prospect of having a drink or two. Why not earn yourself some drinking money? It's not like you've got anything better to do. Tonight, though, the drinks are on me, she laughed and reiterated this a couple more times. You're back. I watched as the evening breeze brought a few flower petals from the sacred sakura and landed them in her cup, making ripples that disturbed the reflection of the moon. Overcome by a strong sense of deja vu, my mouth took it upon itself to proceed with an utterance that would prove to be something of an embarrassment to my brain. You're drunk. She didn't look very happy to hear that, and retorted with firm and defiant tone in her voice. But her countenance quickly changed again as she placed her cup down on the table and let out a sigh. I wasn't even born yet when she left, and I was still in my youth back then. You must be the only one still be able to recite the stories she once told. And just like that, I found myself roped into writing for the Yae publishing house one more time. It's quite amusing now I think about it. To my faithful readers, please don't be upset. This should not be taken to mean that I am committed to no longer writing save for when it becomes a selfish indulgence. After all, there is some great liquor that's soon to decrease in price, and I have to make sure I'm prepared. Besides, I have to pay the chief editor back for the wine she so kindly bought me that night. It's nice. This is a nice story. This is a very nice story. Backstory for the author. Volume 2, New Chronicles of the Six Kitsune. Forgive me my garurusness. Forgive me my garrulousness, but there are still some things to get out of the way before the story begins in earnest. Why the New Chronicles of the Six Kitsune? Naturally, the word new here presumes the existence of an old. This book is a slightly revised edition of the Yurai Kusai Chronicles of the Six Kitsune, which enjoyed a period of great popularity 500 years ago. I possess but limited writing skills and can only hope that Yura Kusai and my other readers will peruse these pages with forgiving eyes. Yura Kusai was already famous when I was but a small child. By that time, the Saigu had already taken great interest in Yura Kusai's literary abilities and expertise on tea, making Yura Kusai one of the most cultured and sophisticated of all the kitsune. Unfortunately, that is all in the past now. Yura Kusai made a grave mistake and had to leave. It has now been 500 years since then. Without further ado, the story of the New Chronicles of Six Kitsune begins on the towering Mount Yogo. Legend has it that in the time of the great Kitsune Hakushin, she had 6 apprentices, all greatly skilled in magic and in shape-shifting. Day to day, they were tasked with assisting their matriarch, Hakushin, in managing the shrine and defending Mount Yogo. The eldest of the 6 was Itaru, the black fox, who, unlike most other females, was built as broad as a bear and as strong as a tiger. She also had a wild and unruly personality. One day, she was being drunk and disorderly in the main hall of the shrine and destroyed a shintai that represented the shogun. Incensed, Hakushin banished Itaru from the mountain for a period of much needed self-reflection. But Black Fox Itaru was all too happy to leave the mountain behind. She put Hakushin's warning completely out of her mind, found a good bottle of quality liquor, and headed straight for the nearest village to look for trouble. Hey. Volume 3, New Chronicles of the Six Kitsune. Continuing where we left off, Black Fox Itaru was on her way to the village looking for trouble when she saw 2 women standing at the side of the road dressed like lumberjacks. Both had 3 blades hanging from their waist, a 7-foot-long nodachi, a kodachi, and a wakizashi. They were armed to the teeth, and they weren't hiding it. As her big, bulky silhouette approached from a distance, the ground shook, and dust went flying with each step she took. All of which put the 2 women on high alert. They grasped the hilts of their blades, ready to draw them at any moment, and asked in unison, "Who are you? Are you a yokai?" The silhouette answered, "Ha ha, that's exactly what I am." Without hesitation, the 2 women immediately drew their swords and stepped forward, intending to slay Itaru. But this was one yokai they had underestimated. She dodged their attacks in a single step, grabbed their wrists, and twisted them as she turned sideways, sending both of their 7-foot-long nodachi clattering to the ground. Alarmed by the pain, the two reached for their kodachi, but were too late. Itaru sent one of them flying to the ground with an almighty slap, while placing the other into a headlock. Then she grabbed the one under her arm by the scruff of the neck and lifted her into the air, placing her foot on the other's chest to pin her to the ground. The twin Oni of Tokaku? Looks like neither of you have learned anything from the beating I gave you last year for harassing the villagers. When the two bandits heard this, they panicked and started begging for their lives. Black Fox Itaru threw them to the ground and began to speak. Fair enough. Well, I'm a masterless yokai now, that I've been banished from the mountain by Hakushin. Why don't the two of you join me? We'll go around helping those in need. It'll be fun. Ah, what a plot twist. Hi, continuing, volume 4. Volume 4, New Chronicles of the Six Kitsune. Continuing where we left off, Black Fox Itaru successfully tamed the bandit duo, the twin Oni of Tokaku, and the three set off on their new journey of chivalry. As the chivalric trio was resting in Konda village, they ran into a mother and her daughter. After striking up a conversation, they learned that the mother's surname was Yozan, the daughter's given name was Yui, and that both were musicians from a distant Seirai island, visiting Inazuma city to join in the festival. On their way, they had been scammed by a lavender melon seller from the village. He had offered them a few melons to quench their thirst, ostensibly out of the goodness of his heart, before insisting that they purchase more of his melons at an extortionate price. But touring musicians aren't exactly wealthy, and they couldn't afford to spend the entirety of their budget for the return trip on overpriced melons. The twin Oni of Tokaku are an impulsive pair. Upon hearing the story, they instantly became fuming with rage, and unanimously decided that they needed to teach this dishonest merchant a lesson by cutting him into tiny pieces. But Black Fox Itaru had another idea, and spoke up to stop the two sisters. Enough! I know what to do. She confronted the mother and daughter. You two have nothing to worry about. Just watch. I'll talk to the merchant, and he'll come to his senses. Itaru marched off to look for the dishonest merchant. Wah! And they already found their first chivalry act of justice. Continuing Volume 5. Volume 5, New Chronicles of the Six Kitsune. Continuing where we left off, Black Fox Itaru marched off to talk some sense into the dishonest merchant. The lavender melon merchant, Dozaemon, was once a samurai, but with peace having prevailed in Inazuma for so long, his sword skills offered no further use, so he became a merchant in the village instead. After learning a few swindler's tricks such as extortion and intimidation, he found that because he looked so fierce, no one dared to confront him, no matter how much he took from them. Over time, he had become one of the wealthiest people in the village. On this day, Dozaemon was relaxing in front of his shop when all of a sudden he saw dust flying and felt the ground shaking. Then, a shadow large enough to dwarf his shop slowly fell over his face. Hey, I wanna buy some melons. Dozaemon narrowed his eyes and sized up the muscular, fierce-looking, and ill-mannered customer standing over him like an executioner, before finally realizing, oh, she's a woman. How many? Apparently this customer was in no hurry to answer. She was too busy admiring his wakizashi, which was lying on the chopping board. Mighty fine blade you got there. You got that right. I'll have you know I'm from a samurai clan, It's only fitting that I keep an heirloom nearby. Dozaemon went along with the conversation, unaware of where it was heading. Shame. It's wasted on chopping melons. Dozaemon sensed that this was an intentionally barbed remark, and he did not look happy about it. What's with all the chit-chat? Are you buying melons or not? Oh, I am. Itaru smiled at Dozaemon as a gesture of apology. 4 pounds of chopped lavender melon, without the skins, please. Dozaemon's suspicions were aroused, but he did not question the request. He promptly chopped 4 pounds of melon and placed it into the scale. Hey, how come your scale's all wonky? Dozaemon grasped his blade the moment Itaru said this. Well, isn't that something? This scale's got a mind of its own. Glad you're so amused, but it's time to pay up now. Dozaemon could no longer hold back his anger. The time for pleasantries was over. It was time to talk sense. Heh, I don't have a problem with paying you what you're due. I'm just not sure you'd be able to take it. Oh, don't you worry. I'll take whatever you've got to give. You sure about that? Try me. Wow, this is very interesting. They're gonna fight. Suddenly, Itaru yelled, "Take this!" and threw a bag full of mora directly at Dozaemon's face. Dozaemon didn't react in time and took the full force of the impact square on the nose. He fell backwards onto the ground as his precious wakizashi fell flying from his hand and fell beside him. On closer inspection, his nose had been squashed completely flat by the bag of mora. It looked just like the kind of pouch one might use to store a pipe, only without the pipe inside. Itaru walked over and pressed her foot down on the dishonest merchant's chest. Without a word, she hit Dozaemon so hard it felt like a Liyue martial artist tournament was being hosted on his face. With great difficulty, he fought to get back on his feet, but just as he had stood up and grabbed his blade, Itaru noticed and landed another ferocious blow to his head. This time, it hit so hard that the pair of tanuki ears popped out in response. He began to beg for mercy. Itaru burst out laughing at the sight of her. So the merchant is a yokai in disguise, and a filthy tanuki at that. Itaru promptly confiscated the tanuki's stolen wakizashi, distributed of its ill-gotten wealth among the villagers, and handed the rest to the mother and daughter who had fallen victim to its scheme earlier. Itaru spared the tanuki's life, albeit not without some reluctance, and continued on her way. Hi, so that was New Chronicles of the Six Kitsune. Though we've only listened about one kitsune so far. Hi, welcome to the stream, Eds. Welcome. Nak tidur. Selamat malam. That's all I can say. Selamat malam. Okay, so I think we'll continue to the next story. Toki Alley Tales. Before I drink some water. How do you guys like the story so far? I find that the 2 stories that we've read so far were quite adventurous, very, very action-packed. So to get Toki Alley Tales, you'll have to collect the missing pages all around Inazuma, all around Inazuma, and there are 3 sets: the prologue, the middle book, and the conclusion. Epilogue, I don't know. Oh, this is quite long. Oh my god, the continuation is not done yet. I think we will not read Toki Alley Tales because they have a volume 4, 5, and 6, which is probably the second part of Inazuma. Okay, so we're not gonna read this. I think I wanna continue reading Hex and Hound. Is there any more after volume 11? Oh my god, I think there's still continuation. Okay, I don't know Hex and Hound. What should we read? Have we read this? Have we read Heart's Desire? There's one more. It's called The Saga of Hamawaran. So I'll continue reading. Volume 1. The Saga of Hamawaran. Thanks to a fruitful new writer recruitment drive and the phenomenal success of the contest, this novel is amazing. We have received many highly original works from up-and-coming writers all over the world, and we would like to take this opportunity to thank our international writers for supporting Inazuma's light novel industry. And we'd also like to thank Kanjo Commissioner Hiragi Shinsuke for his grace and generosity. It is thanks to all of you that we are able to bring so many outstanding works to the readers of Inazuma here today. As you all know, prior to this promulgation of the Sakoku Decree, a number of accomplished samurai from various lands were active in Inazuma. One of them, whose name is Hamawaran, hails from the distant rainforest nation of Sumeru, but came all the way to the land of the lightning's glow to be an agent of chivalry. Though tales of Hamawaran's deeds were once buried during the peak of unchanging eternity under Her Excellency the Shogun, they have now been given life anew thanks to the narrative prowess of a good friend of mine, the budding author Priscilla. Now, without further ado, please enjoy the Saga of Hamawaran at your leisure. Volume 2. It's not the tempest at sea I'm worried about. It's the prospect of deferred graduation. This was the thought occupying Hamawaran's mind on his long voyage to Inazuma. You're worrying about not getting your thesis finished in time and having to delay your graduation, aren't you? The familiar sounding voice came from outside the cabin. Shush! Who are you anyway? Who? Me? Is that important? Good point. No, you're not that important. Hey. And so, as the great thunderstorm raged, shaking the seas and heavens alike, Hamawaran began arguing with the quiet voice from outside the window, while all worries about the storm and fears about not completing the thesis on time paled into insignificance. But strangely, when Hamawaran arrived on shore, the owner of the voice that had been arguing back from outside the window was nowhere to be seen. Maybe it was the ghost of a shipwrecked victim. Hamawaran considered this possibility. Ghosts are just the ley lines memories of the deceased, Hamawaran reasoned. It's a completely natural phenomenon that occurs due to resonance between past and present. To be sure, it's highly unusual for this to happen in the middle of the ocean, but it's by no means impossible. Who are you calling a ghost? You're the ghost. Hamawaran had finally produced a satisfactory hypothesis to explain away the symptoms of delirium, and had moved on to luggage collection when the familiar voice piped up once more. It sounds very cute. Hey. Volume 3. So you really are a ghost? No, I'm not even dead yet. But you've never been alive either? Yeah, I guess you could say that. The talkative young girl, who claimed to be a Shikigami, gulped down glutinous rice dango with such speed and intensity that Hamawaran began to worry she might choke. If I had to explain it, I'd say my situation is more like that of a ghost calling. So like I said, a ghost? No, not that kind of ghost. One argument later, Hamawaran finally understood that what she called ghost calling was something roughly equivalent to what in Sumeru known as spirit warding. Both involve signing a pact using one's real name. The notion you can command someone when you know their real name is common to many of the world's mystic traditions, and it highlights a core fear held by humans, the fear of being under someone else's control. With thoughts thusly wandering, Hamawaran once again began to regret specializing in the much neglected discipline of marine biology instead of mysticism. First, I have to sail all the way to Inazuma. Then I have to go through the living hell that is a thesis defense. But maybe running into this noisy little thing is a stroke of good luck for me. That's it. That's the saga of Hamawaran. I want to know what happens next. The books are really short. This is a play. It's very difficult for me to read this by myself. I think so far there's only like 4 books from Inazuma. Talking Alley Tales isn't completed yet. So if I were to read, there's still volume 4, 5, and 6. Have I read this? I feel like I've read this before. Oh my god, I haven't collected the Princess 6 Pygmies. I think I will continue reading Hex and Hound. Is there more? No, okay. So I'm going to reread Hex and Hound. Last time I read until volume 5, but this time there's more volumes added, all the way to 11. So I hope you guys enjoy Hex and Hound. This is quite nice because this is like a romance story. So if you guys like romance, you will enjoy Hex and Hound. Okay, volume 1. As is known to all, the Lawrence clan is a noble family of considerable notoriety. The nobles idle away their time extorting the common folk to furnish their lavish lifestyles. They lead licentious lives under their cruel governance. Countless unspeakable crimes are committed against the people. Although the common folk unanimously resent the nobles' greed, they are powerless to speak a single word against them. Young Dietrich was a high-born noble. He hadn't yet committed any deplorable crimes at his tender age. In fact, his swordsmanship was reputedly exceptional among the noble circles. If you wish to find something to cavil about, it would have been his short temper and chronic delusion that the whole universe revolved around him. Such traits, of course, are not uncommon among the sons of nobility, so it wasn't of any major concern. However, given that he was born into the Lawrence family name, it was only a matter of time before he would get drafted into the ranks of other scoundrels. It was at this time the young scoundrel decided upon the first reckless act of his life. A short while earlier, Dietrich had made up his mind to skip the Grand Mage's discourse on the elements in favor of a bit of fun outside the confines of the city. As he pressed his way through the streets crowded with commoners, his gaze fell upon a young lass with blonde hair and blue eyes. Dietrich was at a loss for words for the emotions that had bubbled in his heart at the moment. The only thing he was certain of was that his heart had never thumped so loudly or so uncontrollably within his chest. So this must be how dear mother feels when she sees her kitty. As Dietrich kept thinking in his heart, he suddenly found himself moving towards where she was standing. Much to his dismay, the young commoner girl didn't do so much as bat an eyelid at him. After making his identity known to her, she didn't display even the slightest sign of any interest. Convinced that this commoner didn't understand what was good for her, he decided that he would carry her off under the cover of night. Once I take her, I'll lock her away in a cage, just like dear mother would do when her kitty is being naughty. Oh my god, I don't remember the story to be like this. Okay, Dietrich. Volume 2, Hex and Hound. The plebeian lass arrived in the city on one fine sunny day. Her long golden hair shone like the spring sunshine, and her blue eyes sparkled like the gleaming waves in the afternoon sun. It's hard to imagine such a girl could travel alone from the monster-infested outskirts all the way to the city. To call her suspect would only be an insult to her beauty. Thus shouted the drunken gate sentry among the clamour of the crowded tavern. His earnings from guarding the gate that day were especially bountiful, enough to keep his cup brimming until dawn at least. We all know you were just dumbstruck by her beauty. The man next to him pulled no punches. Ha! What do you know? Do I look like one to go frolicking after ladies? I'll show you what I'll really have my eye on. The soldier promptly pulled out his money purse and shook it in his hand. Good heavens, today the drinks are on you. You heard the man, drinks all around. I'm just worried that one more will be one too many for you. So this traveling scholar who went by the name of Naughty settled into her newfound life in the city. Naughty spoke in a quiet, gentle manner. A rumor eventually began floating around the streets, claiming that if you exchange a few words with Naughty during the day, you would have sweet dreams the following night. Apart from this, the new girl didn't disturb the lives of those in the city in any manner. After all, the people not only had their daily lives to deal with, but also the constant oppression from nobility. Oh, I thought life in the city would be simple. I never imagined it to be like this. As rays of sunset filled her room, she tilted her head, resting on a hand, sitting beside the table. Her fingers seemed to be circling around something. Her words flowed like a magical chant, with the power to persuade people into believing almost anything. Volume 3, Hex and Hound. Night came. The faint howl of a wild beast could be heard echoing in the distance. It seemed to be a cry of a wolf. Naughty sat on her bed and lifted her long sleeves to reveal a bone-white armband carved in the fashion of a coiling snake. A serpent's head was strikingly lifelike, with its mouth stretched open to reveal its fangs. Its neck was reared back as if ready to pounce on its prey the very next moment. The snake's slithering body was wrapped around her arm, emitting a dangerous aura under the rays of a magical lamps lit the room. Good night, my dear sister. Naughty gently patted the armband, rubbing her pinky playfully along the snake's tail. Shortly after, the magic lamps went out and the entire room was draped in darkness. The darkness of night brought Naughty boundless power. So Naughty was already wise to the unknown presence in the moment it entered the room. Sitting on the bed, Naughty could clearly see Dietrich as he quietly gathered her clothes and felt his way around in the dark. It became harder and harder for Naughty to hold back her laughter, until Dietrich was just in front of her. Dietrich met with the same dazzling eyes that occupied his mind all day, but her eyes were somehow different now. They were no longer blue like water, as Dietrich had seen all day. At this moment, they were filled with the night, devoid of waves, tranquil like the depths of the sea. Here, drink the water in this cup. That was the last thing Dietrich heard before his consciousness faded away. So naughty is not what we think she is. Continuing Volume 4, Hexenhound. The cup fell from his languid hand as Dietrich collapsed to the floor. Naughty crouched beside Dietrich and relieved him of the saber sheathed upon his waist. She stroked the hilt of the blade for a moment before pulling back her hand, and a black gemstone that had been inlaid in the hilt fell into her palm. How convenient! You have brought the eye of eternal night right to me. Thank you. Removing the snake armband as she spoke, she placed the black gemstone in the mouth of the snake. The scales and flesh began to quickly ripple from the snake's head down to its body. A small black snake uncoiled in Naughty's hands, slithering off her palm and falling onto the floor. The snake began to enlarge, forming into a massive python with red eyes and black scales. Its twisting body almost filled the whole room. Naughty extended her hand, and as the magical lamps illuminated the room, the python began to shrink down again and coiled back around her arm. Are you hiding? Naughty turned her gaze to beneath the bed, under which she found a dog. It was trembling uncontrollably, probably frightened by the python a moment before. Oh, what a pity! I wanted to turn you into a wolf, but it seems that you turned into a dog instead. Although Naughty's words seemed to be apologizing, her voice lacked any hint of remorse. Dietrich still hadn't realized what had happened yet. It was only by pure instinct that he had scurried under the bed. Only then did he begin to come to his senses. He tried to say something after hearing Naughty's words, but no matter how hard he tried, only woof 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 would come out. After hearing himself, Dietrich panicked and dashed out from under the bed. No matter how many times Dietrich leaped in front of the mirror or how many times he howled in disbelief, the reflection of a striking young noble was never appeared again. Dietrich then turned with a snarl and he leaped towards Naughty. Without even being the least bit startled, she simply glanced at him with folded arms. Suddenly Dietrich could no longer move towards her, no matter how hard he tried. That's not the proper etiquette for addressing a lady. It seems you need to be trained. Oh, how the turntables. Okay, I did not think Hexenhound was this kind of story. I think I mixed it up with a different story. So I thought it was a romantic story, but it's now a weird champ story. Volume 5. Allow me to introduce myself again. I am not Frigga, but perhaps you are more familiar with my nickname. People call me the Enchantress of the Night. As she spoke, her long golden hair began to gradually darken, eventually turning black as the night sky outside the window. Her once sky blue eyes were now pitch black, ushering in the darkness of night. I am your master now. Of course, I will need to train you well. Not Frigga knelt down and placed a necklace that seemingly appeared out of nowhere on the still struggling Dietrich. The necklace shrank in size until it fit perfectly around his furry neck. No matter how he thrashed his head about or clawed at it, the necklace would not budge. We've already wasted so much time. Come, we're leaving. With that, Not Frigga set off towards the city. Dietrich whimpered along the way with all the strength he could muster, wishing he could simply run back to his villa. But he couldn't, no matter how hard he tried. The necklace Not Frigga had placed on him seemed to somehow control him, so he had no choice but to follow behind her. Notfrüger glanced back at the reluctant Dietrich, dawdling behind her, and curled a strand of her hair around her finger. Although it is certainly amusing to watch you struggle in your current state, you are much too noisy. So unless you'd like a taste of my new silence of the night spell, you'd better keep your yapping mouth shut. The whole world seemed to fall in silence that moment. Intuition told Dietrich that it'd be best not to become the latest test subject for Notfrüger's new spell. Volume 6. Dietrich witnessed the fall of the House of Lords. Who knew where Mother's Kitty had gone? His father, driven to distraction, and his mother, hysterical, were so close by. Yet no matter how he shouted, they did not pay him any heed. Arf! Dietrich lowered his head, but before he could speak again, the ground opened up beneath him. A pair of old crone's hands stretched out from the ground, seizing him by the neck. Then he fell. And his fall seemed not to end, till at last he crashed to earth at the feet of the old witch. Strangely, it did not hurt at all. Something hooked onto Dietrich's necklace, and he found himself hoisted up bodily. All before him was darkness, and he could only see one thing, that which was below him. It was a steaming pot, filled with some unknown black substance that gurgled and belched. There were some solids in there too, and when he looked, he could espy spiderwebs and the bones of venomous vipers. Into his ear crept Notfrüger's voice. Ah, I have you now, my last ingredient. Once I've put you in, my stew of life eternal shall be complete. Woof, 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 let me go, you dastardly witch. Dietrich struggled with all his might, not thinking for a moment that the bond of the hitherto inescapable necklace would suddenly be so easily slipped. Oh, and so he fell. He heard nothing more, not less but the howling wind and Notfrüger's crazed laughter whipping about his ears. Damn. Volume 7. Wake up. Dietrich felt his body rock gently. Are you alright? A hand reached over as if to check his breathing. It was a familiar voice, gentle as the April breeze and genial as a March sun. Dietrich forced his eyes open before them. It was a golden-haired, blue-eyed girl. Ah, wonderful. You're finally awake, she said with a smile. This place, is this Celestia? Dietrich wondered. No, I'm afraid it's just an ordinary forest, the girl replied. Then Dietrich's senses returned to him, and he knew that the young lady before him was the source of all his troubles. The wicked old witch, Notfrüger. In a flash he had recovered, and leaping a distance away from her, he maintained a guarded stance. Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. Ah, I must have forgotten to introduce myself. My name is Magdalene. I'm, Notfrüger's younger sister. So saying, Magdalene gave the finger behind her back a twirl, a calming spell of light magic as she approached Dietrich. Come now, it's alright. At this, did Dietrich indeed calm down? He desired to ask the girl before him how she could understand him, but he could still do naught but bark. Oh, this? It is but a small spell. My sister knows it too. Woof, woof, woof. So that crone did hear what I said and simply pretended not to so she might string me along? Well, still, not Frigga is actually a gentle person. And speaking of her sister, Magdalene smiled gorgeously once more. So, at the bottom of a pot, and in his death, he found the sister. Goodness. Volume 8, Hexenhound. Do witches trade their brains for mighty magic? I can't get through her at all. Dietrich thought to himself as he followed the golden-haired maiden, who rambled on about something or another. Ah, don't say that. If my sister heard you, she would be most angry. Magdalene said this in a quiet voice as she looked at Dietrich. Woof, 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 woof. Well, you didn't tell her, do you? Wait, how did you know what I was thinking? Ah, but it is too late now. Dietrich lifted his head in an alarm at the rising pressure above him. Her expression had not changed at all, but even so, he knew that the girl before him was now changed. It seems that your nightmare has been some use for your memory. At least, I see it, you are still far from adequate. That proud, cold voice from on high. Yes, surely, this was not Frigga. Well then, I suppose I shall leave the essence of the inmost heart inside you. What on earth was the essence of the inmost heart? Wait, no. Magdalene had mentioned just such a thing. Don't worry, the nightmare from before was a falsehood. My sister placed essence of the inmost heart into you, and it can see your fears. That's why you dreamed of the things you fear most. But I think that my sister must have done it for your own good. She is, after all, a most gentle soul. Dietrich's fur stood on end, and he trembled as he peeked at not Frigga, banishing any other thoughts from his mind. Ha! It seemed that my teachings has been quite useful indeed. Well then, let us be on our way. Dietrich's frightened appearance pleased his master, the witch. What is happening? I'm so scared. Volume 9. This was a forest without end. A fine mist shrouded the area, and the golden rays of dawn shone through the canopy, scattering themselves upon the emerald earth below. At this moment, Magdalene was clutching a dog. Indeed, this was Dietrich. As she kept up a leisurely pace, the golden-haired maiden traipsed upon the gnarled roots of massive trees like an elegant swan, lithely making her way through the woods. How fortunate that she is currently Magdalene. If it were that hag not Frigga, she would certainly make me walk or use some sort of magic to force me to run. This path is not made for dogs. No, not even humans could traverse it. There isn't even a road, only trees. Ah, it would be nice if Magdalene could keep carrying me like this. Dietrich's thoughts meandered as he turned to look at Magdalene. The morning light danced upon her face. She possessed a beauty that could not be considered lesser than any noble woman's. Her light complexion and gentle expression made her seem delicate. Like the short-lived morning dew born upon the flower petals, Magdalene's skin is so fair, I dare say, none of the nobles I've met can compare to her, Dietrich thought as he gazed upon the girl. Let me tell you a story. That is, I'm already dead. Magdalene suddenly spoke. Oh my god, I can't believe it. Pascal is dead. A long time ago, there was a witch who gave birth to twin daughters. However, witches are unable to keep two offspring from the same generation. That is the price they pay, the cost of their enormous power. But this witch had already reached the apex of mastery in dark magic. She offered her own life force to preserve the life of her twins. Still, this solution could not last forever, and as the last of the witch's life force faded, the day of their fated farewell arrived at last. In death, the witch was finally freed from the world. The surviving elder sister, not Frigga, inherited everything, and felt entirely responsible for the passing of her younger sister, Magdalene. Luckily for Notfrigga, she inherited the witch's talent for dark magic. Using herself as a vessel, she summoned Magdalene's soul using complicated magical symbols and obscure incantations. Then she read all of the leather-bound books in the tower, and combining what she learned with dark magic and alchemy, created a new vessel. However, the ability to place her sister's soul inside the vessel and bring her back to life was not only forbidden art in light magic, but it was also exceptionally difficult, especially for Notfrigga, who knew no light magic whatsoever. Nevertheless, Notfrigga's insistence on bringing Magdalene's back spurred her on, and eventually she found a solution. She transformed the vessel into a serpent bracelet that she wore on her wrist and set out on an adventure. My beloved sister, when this is all over, we will never be apart again. The final volume of Hex and Hound. Volume 11. The last ray of light was fading, and darkness was about to engulf the forest. It's time to switch, my dear elder sister. Suddenly Magdalene put down Dietrich, whom she had been holding in her arms. One last thing, elder sister. I have a present for you. I hope you like it. With this, light slowly began to shine from her fingers, gradually forming a dazzling ball of light. This was Magdalene's light magic. Alright, from now on, you have to be well behaved. Shh, don't say anything. What? Why are you being so mysterious? Well, before Dietrich could react, he had quietly muttered something, but his speech was interrupted when he suddenly found a slender hand tightly covering his mouth. A moment later, the girl, now transformed, hastily stuffed something into his mouth. What's this? It was the hilt of Dietrich's sword, the sword that was once proudly hung from his belt. Dietrich opened his mouth instinctively to say something. Bite down on it if you want to live. Notfrigga raised one hand into the air, and Dietrich felt unable to breathe as the collar around his neck grew tighter and tighter. Powerless to resist, it was all he could do to bite down as he instructed. Listen carefully. In a moment, you will need to defend yourself with this sword. Even though you're an ignorant and useless spoiled brat, it would still be a lot of trouble for me if you died here. Notfrigga raised Dietrich's head and spoke in a low voice. After all, I haven't finished teaching you a lesson yet. It would ruin my fun if you died so easily. The witch of the night finished speaking and retracted her hand to adjust her garments. The collar loosened again, returning to normal tightness. At once, air rushed past his teeth and in through his nostrils, filling up his lungs again. Dietrich still did not dare relax his jaw grip on the sword, however, so he had to make do with somewhat impaired breathing. Before long, the sound of commotion was heard in the distance. Cliffhanger? I hate Genshin Impact. How dare they give me so much cliffhangers? Oh my god, I can't believe it. Cliffhanger. Everything's a cliffhanger. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh. I can't believe it. That's another cliffhanger. Okay, I guess now we could read some heartwarming stuff. I don't want to read any more weird chap stuff. So this excerpt is someone's diary. Those who have collected some of the notes of someone's diary. So this is it. This is some of it. Volume 1. Let's all feel very heartwarming. This is the last one I'll read for tonight, I think. Oh my god, this one has so much. Yeah, I think I'll read someone's diary for the last one. This one has 6 volumes. Alright, so this is the last book for tonight. Book reading. The last reading for tonight. Volume 1. Dear Dong Dong, time flies, doesn't it? It's been nearly 3 months since I left. Do you miss me? I do hope you're going to bed on time and not causing any trouble for Grandma and Grandpa. I'll be back from Inazuma very soon. And I promise when I get back, I'll take you to see the crux ship down at the harbor. I won't let you down this time. Dong Dong, do you remember the beach at Yaoguang Shoal? Well, I went there and I collected lots and lots of beautiful golden sand. More than I can carry by myself. When I'm back, you should buy up the local mill and make fresh tofu every single day. Although I'd rather use all this gold to buy a house in Liyue Harbor. A huge house with a splendid sea view. I'll let you decide how to spend it when I'm back. How does that sound? Guess what? Just opposite Luhua Pool at the Guili Plains, there's an enormous cliff. And what did I find there? A ruin guard. He was just sitting there, slumped over, completely still. He didn't flinch even when thunder and lightning, not even when the rain was pelting down on him. Then I realized he must be sleeping. So I climbed up on top of him, threw my arms around the big old head of his, and twisted it as hard as I could. There was a clunking noise, followed by a loud boom. Then suddenly his head fell off and rolled straight off the cliff. It smashed into 1,000,000 pieces at the bottom. Shame, really. Otherwise, I would have brought it home as a trophy, and you could have had a proper up-close look at what a ruin-scarred head looks like. Imagine that. I also went to Jurong Cars. I must take you there when you're older. The scenery there is incredible. The billowing clouds look like an ocean. The waterfall is infinitely better than the one in Chingse village. And you can sometimes catch a glimpse of the realm of the Adepti in the mountains. You can't begin to imagine how beautiful it was. And guess what? You're not going to believe this, but I met an actual real-life Adeptus. We sat and drank together, chatting and laughing away. The Adeptus gave me a gift too, a magic wine bottle. All you need to do is blow on it, and an infinite supply of wine will flow from the inside. You absolutely mustn't touch it though. Do you understand? You're way too young to drink. When you're older though, all my treasures will be yours to do as you please. My adventures in Liyue are coming to an end. It's time for me to head to the harbor, where I'll hop on the crux ship and sail off to somewhere even further away. I'm excited to see what wonderful sights and valuable treasures are waiting for me at the next stop, and I can't wait to share them all with you. Until then, Dong Dong, please make sure you go to bed on time every night and don't eat too many sweets. They'll rot your teeth. Please also be nice to your grandma and grandpa. Seriously, don't do anything to make them mad. And no fighting. I will be home soon. Lots of love, Daddy. So this is Dong Dong from Chingsa village, from Dong Dong's father. Volume 2. Yao Guangshou. The fog is setting in again. The idea of panning for gold here has turned out to be a complete waste of time. I should have known not to trust this old mining crew. It must have been several decades since the last of them retired. Every last bit of information they gave me is completely out of date. Utterly useless. This is turning into a complete farce. I would say I'll be going home empty-handed tonight, but the chances of me finding my way home at all in this fog are looking slim. I hope Dong Dong's eaten dinner. I can hear hilichils somewhere in the distance. I have no idea where I'm going in this fog, so I suppose I'll just focus on walking away from the hilichils' voices. Hopefully, I'll make it out alive. I don't know how long I've been walking, and in this fog, I don't even know if it's daytime or nighttime. Hang on. Are those silhouettes I see up ahead? By the good grace of the Geo Lord, maybe I can join along with them and find a way out of here. Yep, that's what I'm gonna do. Hooray, I'm saved! On a closer inspection, the silhouettes didn't look like friendly characters. I've decided to set up camp here and wait for them to leave before figuring out my next move. I might have to go back the way I came. Guards, I can hear hilichils all around me. I should definitely... End of diary content. What happens to Dong Dong's father? Volume 3. Guili Plains. What a string of bad luck. I finally made it out that hilichil camp alive, only to end up nearly being killed by a ruin guard. I'd figured it was probably out of the action given the way that it sat there completely motionless in the torrential rain. But then a bolt of lightning struck it right on the head. There was something whirring and grinding. Then suddenly it was back to life. I was powerless to defend myself against it. It lifted me up like a baby bird and tossed me from the top of the cliff. Luckily, amidst my frantic scrambling, I managed to duck into a cave at the foot of the cliff. It was out of line of his sight, so it gave up trying to find me. If not for that cave, it'd have been ripped me to shreds, thrown me to the ground, and then stomped me into... I don't even know what you call it by that point. Surely, it must be well away from here by now. Even so, I can still hear the droning noise it made, like a swarm of bees buzzing around in my head. I think I must have broken my arm, because it hurts when I put any pressure on it. I hope, that I will be able to manage though. In any case, at my age, I need to grin and bear it. I mean, what would Dong Dong and his mother think of me if I didn't? Oh my god. Dong Dong father. Volume 4. During Karst. Near the foot of a cliff, I ran into a herb gatherer who helped me set the bone. I almost passed out from the pain. He did say that the most passers-by he meet who have survived an encounter with a ruin guard tend to be less physically intact than I am. Every cloud has a silver lining, I guess. From above, Juan Karst looks completely untouched by human activity. It's also shrouded in mist, and to add to the mystery, it's impossible to know just how deep the mist goes. Strange noises can be heard coming from the stone forest. Whether it's illuminated beasts or celestial beings in there, I don't know. All I know is it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. With any luck, I should be able to pick up a quality chunk of amber here, or maybe some highly prized medicinal herbs. I know that back in the day, many the poorer village folks made their fortunes and built their lives in Liye by selling herbal medicine, and I see no reason why I couldn't do the same. It rained heavily in the evening, which meant the cliff face was too slippery to climb. I also couldn't find my climbing rope or axe anywhere. It's strange. I'm not the type to lose things so easily. I'll bet one of the monsters lurking in the mountains pinched it while I wasn't looking. Maybe it was a fox. After several days of fruitless searching, I finally found some good medicinal herbs, so I'm getting ready to head back. I had wanted to do one final search, but this place was starting to creep me out. As soon as night falls, I keep thinking I see shadowy figures following me everywhere. Also, the blood-curdling cries of some unknown species of monster are now coming from all directions, and they're getting closer. During my descent down the mountain, I came across an old wine bottle. I gave it a rinse with some spring water, and I found it in good condition. I bet Dong Dong would like it if I gave it to him as a souvenir. I'll just tell him that it was a treasure given to me by an adeptus. Oh my god, so this is the story that he said in volume 1. Aww. Volume 5. Liyue Harbor. I sold the herbs at Boo Boo Pharmacy, made back everything I've lost, plus a little extra. At this rate, I could buy a house in Liyue within the next few years, just in time for Dong Dong to settle in before he starts school. If I studied harder when I was younger, I wouldn't have ended up getting involved with those scumbag treasure hoarders. I also wouldn't have squandered the inheritance my father left me. This makes me think that I must get Dong Dong a good teacher who makes him study hard. That's the only way he'll make reliable friends and not end up like his wretched old man. So, for Dong Dong's sake, I can't give up now. I've got to find a way to make a good living. That said, I couldn't get the idea of making a quick fortune on my head, so I tried my luck at the jade mystery. I hadn't intended to spend my money at a place like that, but the boss, Shito, was very persuasive. He talked me into putting all my money into it. I didn't do too badly. I cut open the stone and found it to be higher quality jade. Then again, that one brief foray into the world of gambling on stones meant that I had to pawn the sickle and medicine box I use for foraging for herbs. I'm penniless now. Sure, I got some good jade pieces from gambling on stones, but jade isn't easy to shift, so it looks like I'm back to survival mode again. I think I'll head overseas and see how it goes. I should try joining the Crux. Here's hoping Captain Beidou will take me on. I'll happily scrub the deck if it comes to it. I haven't eaten in 3 days. Why lah? Go gambling. Okay, final volume of Someone's Diary, Volume 6. Jinren Island. After stealing a small boat from the pirate ship, I rowed for 3 days before finally reaching shore. From here, I can see the legendary Takayama on Narukami Island, along with the giant sakura tree that grows on it. The colors of the sacred sakura are gentle in the moonlight. It makes me think of home. I wonder if Dong Dong feels lonely in Chingse village. I don't know if I made the right decision coming all the way just to make a living. It's probably just me getting old thinking of all this nonsense. I stumbled upon a purple melon while exploring this remote island. It tasted astringent and rather lactase. My teeth and tongue turned purple from eating the skin, and it took a while for the color to fade. Next time, I'll try cooking it before eating. I've set up camp. At first light, I'll walk south. I heard the pirates say that's where Inazuma is. There should be plenty job opportunities in the city. Maybe I should give up the foolish idea of adventuring and find a real job. When I've saved up enough money and bought my own house, I'll send for Dong Dong to come live with me. Besides, the housing here is much cheaper than in Liyue Harbor. Okay, so that is the final story of Someone's Diary. So this is Dong Dong's father. He is somewhere in Inazuma, but we don't know where. And we don't know if he actually found a real job. So I think that's it for tonight. What else have we read? Yep. I do want to read Toki Ali Tales. This seems interesting. I could read the first 3 volumes, but like 4, 5, and 6 ain't out yet, you know. Wasn't his voice recorded in a conch in the Golden Apple Archipelago? I think it did. I think there was someone there. Let's see if there is. Is there any? Didn't have the archipelago. Please make Dondong that as an NPC we can interact with. Yeah, I hope so. I hope there'll be like a Liyue NPC that we can like talk to. Is this a reading ASMR? It is. Though I'm not sure how to do ASMR, but I'm just reading. I just want to read the books. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's reading stream and we found a little bit, we understand the story within Genshin Impact a little bit more. If you guys like to listen more stories, I'll be happy to read. There's this one called Diary of Roll the Adventurer. It's very long. It's very long. Oh my god. And there's like Records of Julian, which is not very long, but it has 6 volumes. I forgot which ones I've... Hex and Hound's pretty whack. Yeah, it's fun, right? it's a 4-star book, you know. It's a 4-star story. I really enjoyed Legend of Sword. I hope it has a continuation. I can't believe it's cliffhanger. Xingqiu, please continue writing. Toki Ellie Tale seems like super long, and this is like only the length of like 3 volumes, and there's still like 4, 5, and 6. I should start collecting The Princess and the 6 Pygmies. Seems like a nice fairy tale book. I'm not sure if I've read Vera's Melancholy. Yeah, I don't remember reading. Apparently there will be like a cliffhanger in Vera's Melancholy. Every book has a melancholy. Toki Tales, I want to do it next time, but it's not complete yet. So I'll read Toki Alley Tales once the volumes are finished. At least once all 6 volumes are out. Okay, so thank you very much for listening on tonight's ASMR stream, reading stream. I'm not very good at ASMR, but I just wanna read. So let me know. Just comment down in the video or just in the comment box now. Let me know what stories you want me to read. I don't know, can you see? Let me just adjust the thing a bit. Can you see? Okay, so these are the books that are collected in Genshin Impact that I collected so far. Let me know what books you want me to read next time. So maybe we'll read like 3 to 4 books each ASMR reading time, and then we can think about it. Just tell me like what kind of books you want me to read. Let's just like scroll slowly. I'll try to collect all the books as soon as I can. At least travel stories, right? I wonder if there's like a new edition in the travel guide. There's only like Mondstadt and Liyue. I haven't found Inazuma if it's out yet. Alright. So, once there are new books and there's like interesting stuff, you guys want me to read any of these? You don't want to read it yourself, you just want to listen to someone read it, just let me know. Then I might consider putting them into a list and just read them next time. So that's all for today. はい。今日はここまでにします。本当に、来てくれてありがとう。はい。それではおやすみなさい。おやすみ。はい。バイバイ。おつゆめ。